Part 49. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 486. The little beauty suddenly turned into a violent loli. Li Che watched the young girl's weak arms and waved the little mini-pot. She didn't think that the young girl had much strength, but the two gangsters who were hit by it were crying terribly. Incomparable, as if someone was using a knife to linger them. At that moment, all the sense of electric shock-like beauty disappeared. Li Che stared at such a song. In the ears came two howling pigs. The two rough guys confronted a weak girl, but howling were two men. It always feels a bit weird. He didn't know why, so he trembled and thought of shrinking again. The girlfriend in his mind, well-behaved, gentle, let alone his wife, but the woman he likes is too far from his imagination. It's terrible. If the two disagree afterwards, will she slam him in disagreement? The police came soon. The two gangsters collapsed on the ground, their noses and tears flew together, and their screams continued. It seems that one leg was broken, and the other rib was also broken. The police thought that Li Che was righteous, and Li Che had a stab wound on his body, but the two gangsters were lying motionless on the ground, so they gave Chow Li Che the thumbs up with admiration. What background? At first Li Che didn't understand why the police asked him what he was practicing, mainly because of the rush of water in his head. He hadn't reacted from the aggressive state. He subconsciously returned, I am sports students, I have learned some sanda before. The policeman then began to chat with Li Che in a friendly manner. The young man is enthusiastic and the time is good. He can also consider becoming a policeman in the future. After the police came, Yanj was like a wronged little daughter-in-law who stood behind Li Che with her head down. Even if she got into the police car now, she still had her head down. She was so thin and weak. Sitting down in the corner, she seemed to feel wronged and pathetic. Li Che spoke quietly several times. This woman, right now, right? When smashing people, they rushed fast and slammed, and the two gangsters slammed the crying cry of father and mother. There was no intention to stop. And now, what does this little white flower look like? Obviously she might be posing, but looking at the small chin face that was slightly exposed by the song with her head down, even the rosy lips seemed pale, with a look of excessive fright. He felt pitiful again. Li Che and her were separated by a policewoman. Although she wanted to hold her hand to soothe her, she couldn't do it. She could only rush in her heart, and suddenly felt a piece of toffee from her pocket. He handed it to Yanj. Huan, have some sugar. Yanji raised her head and gave Li Che a timid glance. She took the sugar, peeled it slowly, and put it in her mouth. This guy is quite warm. She and I are classmates in the same school. Li Che was embarrassed by the police officers. It's not that they don't know each other. When he said this, he kept looking at Yanj, watching Yanj put sugar in his mouth, chewing his mouth, and the cheeks were always bulging. His heart seemed to be in Yanj's mouth like that. It melted, making his heart soft, as if soaked in warm water, only to feel extremely satisfied. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 487. Although the two gangsters kept screaming, but there was nothing big except for the fracture. Li Che saw with his own eyes that Yanj smashed the two people on the ground without even getting up, and the two guys cried. When they went to the hospital for examination, there were only a few bruises on their bodies. Regarding trauma, they did not even have serious injuries on Li Che's arm. The fracture was not a big deal. The police felt that the two guys shouted so hard probably to find a chance to escape or bite back. Li Che. He kept silent appropriately. He suddenly felt that maybe the knife that the gangster had drawn on his arm was also deliberately letting go. As soon as the thought came out, I felt desolate. Li Che bandaged his arm from the hospital and went out with Yanj to send out the transcript. The gangsters insisted that the words of song hit them with bricks, and they did nothing. They really did not have time to do anything, and the knife in their pocket was bought for home cutting. Whoever believes in such an excuse and finally confessed under intimidation and temptation, but although they are looking for money, they haven't been able to find their father and mother before they have time. Even though the gangsters said so, the words confessed to them, but the police uncles did not believe it. After all, no hammer-like weapon was found in the gangster's mouth, and no trace of the gangster was hit. The police speculated that Yang acknowledged that it was to protect Li Che, lest the police would judge Li Che's righteousness as a crime of self-defense to hurt others. It is not a big deal to control the situation. After recording the confession, the police left Yang and Li Che's phone number and home address before they rushed home. After watching the confession, they sat down on the chairs in the hall and bowed their heads to each other. The young man seemed to say something, and the little girl pouted and smiled shyly. The police officers on duty all felt that the scene of handsome men and women is really seductive. Today, such an accident may become the unexpected joy of handsome men and women. Li Che didn't actually say anything, he whispered and asked the song, "Is it cold?" Yang shook his head shyly. He looked at this fragile little white flower, who had wanted to take off his coat, but later realized that he was wearing a horse jacket, not to mention the coat, not even the inside. After taking a nap, he could only ask her again, "Is sugar delicious?" Yang nodded. It turned out that the big-tailed wolf loved toffee, and Li Che's pressure was inexplicably relaxed at this time. She seemed, in fact, quite kind of coquettish. At the moment, she was very quiet. How nice. When she looked at it, she wanted to shave her hair. Oh no, it was her hair. The picture of the big-tail wolf must be his illusion. Okay. It's an illusion. Yang was afraid that it would become the psychological shadow of Li and Li's mother, so she did not tell Li and Li to wait until the police said that she could leave, and she and Li Che went to the police station together. Fortunately, Li Che's bicycle was also pulled into the compound of the police station, so when he left, Li Che finally got his wish to carry the beauty back. No, to be precise, the words are beautiful. Because Li Che's arm was injured, he insisted on riding a bicycle with Yang, and Yang pushed him away and took control of the steering wheel. Li Che did not dare to resist, for fear of being hit by an iron pot. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 488. Li Che imagined countless words of song sitting in the back seat of his bicycle, but never thought it would be like this. The bicycle is men's, and Yang is a petite figure. Looking at her back, Li Che always felt that she must be struggling at the moment. In fact, he was also struggling to sit. The boy had long legs and the back seat was not high. He didn't dare to drag his feet to avoid the car's twisted words and songs. So you can only try to raise your legs. He suddenly felt that it was inhumane without a foot pedal in the back seat of the car. It was inhumane and there was a seat in the back seat. So he jumped out of the car and said to Yang, "I'm too heavy, or I'll run, you can ride a bike." Yang raised an eyebrow and glared at him with a look of dissatisfaction. The swollen expression seemed to be saying, "Do you look down on me, right? My car skills are so good that I can't carry you." Li Che was crying and tears in his heart, but he didn't dare to justify, but could only get on the car silently. This time it was a riding posture. Anyway, when the car was crooked, his feet could also be used as a support point, and at last he gave himself a sense of security. That's too tired. Oh. To keep your long legs away from the ground, and to keep yourself balanced, you must keep your eggs spaced from time to time to avoid being beaten up. So sad. This night, Li called Yang several times, and Yan Ji used excuses for his school affairs to be processed. Father Li had already returned home from work. He asked when Yanj was going home, so he could go to school to pick up the song. Yanj returned to his classmate to take a taxi home with his classmates. His daughter was well behaved, and Father Li didn't think much. Yanj has been delivered to his home by Li Che. Oh, no, it was Li Che's bicycle that took her to the door. Li Che got out of the car, his legs were sleepy and lacking, his buttocks were even more panicky. Sitting in a car, he experienced a kind of lifelike torture. Not at all romantic, it's too big to imagine. It was almost 11 o'clock in the evening, and Yanj did not refuse the kindness of Li Che to send her to the door. When she got out of the elevator, she pointed to the door of her house and waved to Li Che. Typing with a mobile phone, slow down on the road. Try to hold the handle with one hand. Don't touch the injured arm with force. Li Che nodded again and again. He wanted to speak. Yan Ji made a bu gesture to him. Yanj told him to quickly enter the elevator and leave. Li Che signaled that Song was in front of his home. Yan Ji had to pull out the key and gently open the door. She probably did not want to disturb her parents, but Li and Li were watching TV waiting for her. Before Li Che got into the elevator, he still heard Mother Li said, "This girl, I will have to go to your teacher when I come back so late later. Even if there are classmates together, it is not safe to take a taxi. Hey, your dad is worried about dying. Have you eaten or left you a meal?" Li Che's stomach grunted reflectively. He patted his mind in the elevator and felt that he was stupid. At such a good opportunity, he didn't even ask for a song for supper. Even if she doesn't invite her for supper, buy her something to eat. The little girl is so skinny, how can she stand hungry? After returning home, Li Che, who had eaten 3 bags of instant noodles and 5 eggs, felt that he was really incompetent. When he sent the female ticket home, she didn't even buy a snack for the female ticket. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 489. Li Che turned out the toffee in his house and packed a few tablets in the pockets of all his clothes. Well, it looks so soft and cute, and he likes sugar as much as he does. He and the female ticket are indeed a natural match. He imagined the next 2 people eating sugar together. It was so beautiful. Yan Ji saw Li Che riding a bicycle again at the bus station the next day. What surprised her was that this guy not only installed a more comfortable soft cushion on the rear seat, but also installed a pedal at the center axle of the rear wheel of the car, which was quite intimate, and this early. Where did he go? Li Checheo Yanj, holding the handlebar in one hand, said, "Come on, I will take you to school by the way." He was a little hesitant, thinking that the Song would refuse. As a result, Yan Song handed him the school bag. Bypassing the car again, he motioned to sit behind. Looking at the chin slightly raised, his face was condescending, and there was no female ticket to relax. Li Che weakly tried to win. "I can control the handlebar with one hand, and my arm is not badly injured." Yan Song raised his eyebrows and looked at him, and his gaze didn't mean to wince. Li Che finally lost, and silently gave the handlebar to Yanj. He was sitting in the back seat, and he could still hear the little girls on the road talking, "So happy, this handsome guy is carried by his girlfriend, and he must be beautiful in his heart." He wasn't beautiful at all, sitting on the back seat, even if he had installed the pedals, even if the back seat had a cushion to stop his buttocks. He was sitting in such a small place with his arms down, and felt good, wronged, uncomfortable, and painful. Sitting for a few more days like this, his legs had to turn into crotch legs. His long legs, was really wronged. Of course, what made him most embarrassed was that Yanj's riding technique was obviously not good, and he was always crooked. He was scared to move, and the hands holding the seat sweated. "Mom," he always felt that with a little movement, the car would fall out of balance. Thrilling and exciting all the way to school. Naturally, this pair of them has attracted countless people to discuss, and many people are still holding mobile phones to take pictures. Li Che even heard someone say with envy, "So romantic." Romantic fart, he was carrying it all in the air. It was midnight last night, and there was no car all the way, and he was only taken care of by the when he was carried by Yanj. There was no other big feeling. This morning the traffic was so high that his buttocks didn't hurt anymore, so he took his feet as a spare balance instrument very seriously. Whenever the car was about to tilt, he relied on his feet to support the ground. The more serious he was, the more he realized that the riding skills of his own female ticket were not very good. Fortunately, he has long legs and can be a spare tire at a critical moment. This leg is so long it's a bit useful. After getting out of the car, Li Che's heart was shaking, and there was always an illusion of risking his life in the woman's ticket car. He reached out and wiped the sweat that was obviously absent from his forehead. He asked curiously, "Have you never taken anyone on a bike? Especially he is as heavy as he is, don't look at his weight, but he weighs 114. It must be because he was too heavy, which caused the riding of female tickets to malfunction." Yan Ji asked him, his face flushed, and his eyelashes smiled tremblingly. This smile is shy. She typed on her mobile phone, "For the first time yesterday, I didn't feel that it was difficult to ride." Li Che. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 490. The tip of her nose was a little sweaty, her face was flushed, and her lips were very rosy. At this moment, she was like a rose with raindrops, delicate and gorgeous, fresh and delicious. This smile, just like the bud blooming in a flash, the beauty is stunning, and delicately want to make people feel sorry. Li Che looked at her shy smile, and for a long time she didn't speak. He rolled his throat several times. He wanted to boast that she was so good, but he couldn't speak, and couldn't make a sound at all. I felt a cold sweat and a hot sweat on my back. What kind of heart he was, knowing that her car was crooked, she even took her car all the way to school. After this, if she was given a car, would this guy rush as soon as she stepped on the accelerator? Hemp eggs, absolutely road killer. Of course, in fact, if this was her first ride, she also brought him a 140-pound big man, which seemed pretty good. Li Che didn't speak, and Yan Ji typed again, "The wound on his arm is going to the infirmary to change the medicine today, you have to remember." Li Che, "Okay." He finally made a sound, he breathed invisible, and then praised her unexpectedly, "You can take a handsome man like me with 140 pounds to ride for so long without riding a bike. It's really amazing." Yan Ji smiled and frowned, even happier. Li Che looked at her happy appearance, and said, "But you'd better stop riding on the road again," then swallowed it. "Forget it, she's happy. No one can bear to fight such a little beauty. Besides, the little beauty is still his female ticket. He couldn't bear to hit her anymore. I have time on the weekend, so take her to the car." Yanj typing on the phone, "You don't play ball today, I will go first." Li Che, "Okay, I'll be waiting for you downstairs at noon. Let's eat together at that time." Yan Ji nodded and shook his head, and ran away with a smile on him. Xiao Beihua, could it be that he was moved by his hero's rescue of the beauty yesterday, so he also liked him? Li Che immediately dispelled this floating thought. Yesterday, the hero saved the beauty, but I still don't know who it is. However, it seemed that the knife on his arm was not in vain, and Xiao Beihua was obviously more close to him. The new grassroots figures from the School of Physical Education have fry pans in campus forums about the school flowers. Because the picture is Lig's picture with Yanj riding a bicycle. The following bunch of boys' messages are, "So how can I bear to let the school flower ride him? If the school flower is my girlfriend, I must not bear her to take me on a bike, and I will drive her to BMW. The message from the girls is, how do you feel so romantic? I also want to ride a bicycle and get a male ticket. I do nt have a male ticket so far. Is it because I do nt know how to ride a bicycle? Lee Che brushed this post on the forum all morning. Really, this picture has taken away all of his legs. He looks a bit shorter than Yan Ji and is extremely ugly. As far as the song is illuminated and beautiful, he sits in the back seat, like a dwarf green leaf. But the following messages are really funny. The boys are out of control. Mom, how can these guys understand the thrill of taking a school float at the risk of his life? Even though he thought so, Lee Che was so beautiful in his heart that he was in a state of vigor all morning. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 491. My companions joked that Lee Che was very powerful. He just took the school flowers away. Lee Che frowned and said distressedly, don't mention it, she just learned to ride a bicycle, and I sit at the back of it is a personal break. I'm really worried about sitting in her car all the way. Lee Che's obvious show of affectionate display made his companions all grind their teeth and grind their teeth. Even if they are worried, they want to ride in the school flower car. This guy has the ability to give them. After school, Lee Che waited for Yan Ji's lesson to finish, and then went home by bike together. This time, no matter how fierce the words were, Lee Che firmly held the handlebars and refused. Compared to this little white flower that always looks confident, he believes more in his 5 girls. So in the evening, Lee Che was riding a bicycle with a picture of a school flower on the internet. This is really tricky dog abuse. He finally took back control of his car, and Lee Che was very satisfied. He was riding a bicycle with a spirited expression, sitting in the back seat of a bird, a handsome man, a beautiful man, a long man's leg, and a small woman legs. Such a scene feels seductive. It is a beautiful scenery. Lee Che decisively saved this photo posted on the campus website as his mobile phone screen. Throughout the summer, Yanj was sitting in the back seat of Lee Che's bicycle to and from school. Sometimes Lee Che played football, she just waited in the stadium, holding a drawing board to draw. I heard that Yanj was painting himself on the basketball court. Lee Che was very happy and excited. Although Yanj didn't show him paintings, he tried all kinds of methods, and finally saw the painting about Yanj that had been painted for countless days. In his fantasies, the painting should look like a handsome and volleying ball. But the moment I saw the painting, Lee Che, who was always sweet in my heart, once again raised the idea of fighting back. This picture is not a handsome boy at all, but a fat beast that has 2 wings, but obviously does not fly. This beast is only fat, and its features are particularly ugly. Lee Che. Does Yanj really paint him? He was hit with 10,000 points. Even if he was abstracted into an ugly beast, he was satisfied with the wings. But what made him so fat? Does he look fat? Is he fat? Although there are no 8-pack ABS, anyway, it's also a fish line. How can he make the fat he draws into a ball, and the beast's features are really stingy? Because it was a painting that was seen secretly, although he was very upset and very dissatisfied, he did not dare to protest in front of the song. After all, the words have been said not to allow him to peek. Obviously he is wrong. Yanj really didn't paint Lee Che. She paints a devouring beast. After drawing a giant behemoth, she began to paint the mud puppet that fell out of the pot in one plane. The wok swallowed the red dust, and after it was swallowed, it spit out a mud puppet beast. She guessed that this might be a special feature of the wok. But one wok won't communicate with her, and the second, although she only had a glance at the mud puppet, she didn't have time to take a closer look, but now I think that this mud puppet looks familiar. To say that the beast that can make her memorable, one is a chicken, and the other is a devouring beast. But the mud puppet beast looks so adorable and has big eyes. Although it also has a pair of large wings, the appearance of the ugly beast that swallows the sky and the mud puppet beasts is completely incomparable. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 492. So, what exactly is the mud puppet beast? Mud beasts inspired Yanj. Yanj intends to try to draw his own comics. Not only is the novel industry developed on the internet today, but even comics are a thriving scene. Anyway, there is a lot of extra time every day, and this body can't cultivate, so she should spend time drawing comics. The painting Li Che saw was the first manga of Yanj. Because of being vilified, Li Che was unhappy for a few days. The most important thing was that the little white flower girl ticket in his family who didn't have a name didn't seem to know that he was in a bad mood and was angry, but he didn't mean to comfort him at all. Do not open Sen, will not bring her toffee in the future. It doesn't seem to work without sugar. He bought such a large package and didn't give it to her. Putting it in the house would definitely call for bugs. While Li Che was still struggling, Yan Ji asked him, "Is the room decorated? What room to renovate? Whose?" Li Che didn't respond for a while. Yan Ji could not understand where he reacted. She stared at him and typed on her mobile phone, "Didn't you say you wanted to decorate your own house some time ago, and let me help you paint on the walls in the room?" Oh, Li Che nodded immediately, "I've already installed it, even if there is nothing on the wall. I've been waiting for you when you have time to help me decorate the wall." Fortunately, he responded quickly. "Yanj, what style of painting do you like? My painting skills are not good, but I can ask our classmates to help you." Li Che immediately shook her head, "I only like what you draw, I don't understand it, I just think that everything is fine as long as you draw." Li Che, who said this, was very pained, and he was really afraid that Yanj would paint the ugly beast on her paper in his bedroom. He will have nightmares. The song just laughed, and the signature shy smile. Although Li Ziahua knew that the smile was a little weird, Li Che still felt that the little girl was really beautiful when she smiled. With Li Che's words, Yanj took the weekend as an excuse to make a sketch and took a day to go to where Li Che lived. Li Che lives alone. His parents have been abroad for a long time, but his grandparents are in the city, but there are a lot of grandparents, so he moved alone in this neighborhood that is not far from Qingda. But Su was because he lived alone, and there wasn't any popularity in this room. Scheduled time to answer the song. Li Che got up early in the morning, and all the clothes lost from the living room to the bedroom were rolled up and thrown into the bed in another empty room. The clothes on the bed were almost piled up on a hill, and the sneakers on the ground. In fact, what he wears every day is to go back and forth with those sets of sportswear, and he can't figure out why he has so many clothes and shoes. As for the wardrobe and shoe cabinet, these two gadgets are furnishings for Li Che. The house came in from Li Che. He didn't really clean it for him. He found out that the house was a little dirty and dirty everywhere. How to do? It's too late to make cleaning, and it's too late for the grandparents to clean it. Anxious Li Che didn't even have breakfast, and then when the house was barely packed, he rode a bicycle to answer the song. The place where two people live is very close. Yanj's community is only 1 station away from the school, and Li China's community is only 2 stations away from the community. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 493. This way Li Che is humming gear. After a while, their team will play basketball on behalf of Youth University and several other schools. When the day when their team won the championship, he must confess to his own little white flower, shouting at her on the basketball court. At that time, she will not refute, she must agree. When they graduate, they can get married. With his wife, he can eat delicious food every day. After all, my wife brought a pan with her, and she was a beautiful girl who was good at cooking. On that day, it seemed to be very beautiful. Li Che was smart this time. After receiving the song, he took it to dinner first. He was afraid that his room would be penalized by his future wife, so he still had no time to call his grandmother and let him send 2 or 3 people to clean the house as fast as possible. After having breakfast, I went to buy the paint with Yanj. When the two returned to the room was clean, the windows were bright, and Li Che thought he had gone wrong for a moment. Yanji was surprised. It's amazing that you can live so clean alone. Before Li Che was humble, she saw Yanji typing on her mobile phone again. Do you have cleanliness? Li Che, really, just let it clean. Why do you clean it so much that he even suspects that he has a clean habit? Li Che shook his head busy, squeezed his arm and said weakly, knowing you are coming, I cleaned from last night to this morning. I was afraid that you would turn around and leave before seeing the doghouse before me. Ha ha ha. How could he have the illusion that he had been seen through to the slightly smiling appearance of Shang Yanj? Well, it must be his illusion. Li Che brought Yanj into his bedroom and pointed to the blue-green walls. The walls are too monotonous. I want to paint something on it, but I don't know what to paint. Not only are there no pictures on the wall in the bedroom, not even Li Che's photo. One was the room where Li Che had just lived, and he didn't have the heart to dress up. Second, he is afraid of ghosts and there is something on the wall. He is afraid that he will be scared to death when he wakes up in the middle of the night. This allowed Yanj to decorate the walls, which is why he started talking about the school flowers at will. Now he really has the illusion of lifting himself to the ground. When Yanj asked Li Che if she liked anything and what kind of color and style she liked, Li Che returned to her with a smile on her face, I have no concept of painting, and I am not good at all in this regard. You draw whatever you want, I like what you draw. In fact, his heart was crying like a storm. Don't draw him a big fat beast. Yanji didn't write the manuscript. She saw Li Che so casually, she even painted casually. Instead of repainting the wall, I drew a very large pear tree on the wall, with pears hanging on it, and then painted a clear stream next to the tree, and the other bank of the stream was painted a young girl with a wreath, washing her feet in the water, eating pears, and looking up, smiling at the pear tree. About the pears are delicious, and the young girl is satisfied. Green grass was painted all around. Li Shu is on this side of the wall, and the young girl is on the other corner of the wall. Although there is some distance, this mural makes Li Che feel beautiful. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gong Wei Pang. Chapter 494. Obviously, the young girl had almost no facial features, only a rough outline, but Li Che felt that the young girl was like his future wife. This painting is completely beyond his expectations, and it looks good no matter how you look at it. That is, why is it pear tree? Pears are distant from each other. He asked inquisitively, why not an apple tree or a peach tree? Yanj stunned, typing on the phone, also, I didn't expect anything else, what tree do you like? I changed it. He was just curious, and just drawing such a wall, she had spent most of her time, it was almost dark, where could he have the patience to let her continue to paint again, and he shook his head, I do need to change it, it is beautiful, I am asked curiously. Yanj smiled, but did not speak. Li Che continued to ask, these grasses look like celery with long leaves. Is this celery? He had actually seen celery in the kitchen, but he didn't know what celery looked like in the field. So when he asked, he was a little cautious, for fear that he was wrong. Yanji didn't answer him, she was still smiling, but Li Che felt that she didn't seem happy at all. So Li Che decisively asked not to ask. He hurriedly lowered his head to start packing, and after finishing the packing, he asked the song, "Tired, you take a rest, I will cook a few dishes, and we will have a meal and I will take you back." He imagined that he was picking vegetables, and then his future wife couldn't stand his clumsiness, pushed him away and took charge. But the imaginary picture did not appear. At first, he left as expected, and the two picked vegetables together to prepare the ingredients. But then, the dishes were picked and washed. The future wife did not mean to take charge, and stepped back to signal him to ask. Li Che. He lives to this day and only has the skill to cook instant noodles and eggs. How to do? Although her heart was very flustered, Li Che's face was calm. Well, the oil was poured into the pan, and then the tomatoes and eggs were poured together. The oil did not ring, the eggs seemed to be a little weird. The future wife looked at it. Although Li Che was old-fashioned in her heart, she always felt that she was doing something wrong, but she calmly put salt, seasonings, vinegar, cooking wine, sugar. He put all the spices he could put in again. Although the eggs were not formed, he thought that they might have been caused by the eggs being left in the refrigerator for a few days. Turn off the fire and put the dishes on the plate. Li Che reached out and wiped the sweat on his face. Then he looked up to Yanj and said, "The first time I cook, I don't know if it's good, do you taste sweet and salty?" Yanji took a small spoon and tasted it. He smiled at Li Che very satisfied and typed with his mobile phone, "Very delicious, you are so good." There are 2 more exclamation marks. Li Che was very confident in an instant, and the next cumin dish, he poured all his brains into the stir-fry, and another brain filled the plate. Well, the colors look great. He let the future wife taste it again, and the future wife typed him, "It was so delicious, especially good." This time it was 3 exclamation marks. Li Che felt that he was simply a genius chef. He fired the last vegetable too. Well, the rice is already cooked, and the dishes are ready to eat. Although the meal was so busy that he felt like he had nowhere to go. However, he felt particularly fulfilled. He's just a genius. Even the future wife is affirming his cooking skills. This wave must be very 666. After my death, the villain blackened again. Author, Ben Gongwei Pang. Chapter 495. Sitting at the table without his apron, Li Che was happy and proud. First, he spiced vegetables for his future wife. He watched his wife eat delicious food, and he also spiced vegetables in his bowl. The hungry grunt screamed. If it was not for the sake of restraint, he would have eaten as long as he was cooking. Gobbling steak pulled chopsticks in the mouth. Li Che, who took a bite, seemed to have been hit with a stick and settled. After a while, he slowly, chewing the lamb and trying to swallow. But this mouthful of meat steak was pulled too much, and the meat did not chew. He tried it several times, and poured a glass of juice to himself before finally pouring the meat into his stomach. What a terrible smell! Is this really cumin lamb? Is this meat? He couldn't chew, and the taste made him want to cry and vomit, and he didn't want to eat any more. However, looking up to see that the opposite side was lowering her head, slowly lasing him the lamb in her bowl and biting it, the lamb was not easy to bite, so although it was a small piece, she chewed very slowly. In the end, he also learned to take a sip of juice. Li Che looked kind. Before that, he wasn't sure if Xiaobeiwei liked him, but now, he is sure that Xiaobeiwa must love him so much. Otherwise, how could she eat it with a smile and praise him with ignorance? This is absolutely true love for him. Li Che got up and pulled out the lamb in the yanj bowl. This lamb may have a bad taste, so you can eat something else. However, when he continued to serve the dishes, he first tasted the scrambled eggs with tomatoes. He vomited before he swallowed. What's so special about this is the scrambled eggs with tomatoes. This is the salty, sour, and strange raw tomatoes. Li Che couldn't believe this level of cooking. Seeing the green vegetables, he struggled for a long time, and then he dared to chop sticks and vegetables to eat. He didn't vomit this time. It was really the future wife's eyes squinting at him that he thought it was rude to spit out. So even if it was unpalatable, he could bear it. Resisting the urge to rush to the bathroom, he calmly lifted Yan Ji's hand and said, "My first cooking, it was too salty, it was not delicious at all, shall we eat out?" He was afraid that his wife would be so powerful that he would eat up all of these dishes with him. Fortunately, the future wife is still very well behaved. He finished, and although she seemed puzzled, she nodded. Li Che breathed a long sigh of relief. "I'll go to the bathroom first." As soon as he got to the bathroom, Li Che kept rinsing his mouth. He really wanted to spit out everything he had eaten, which was too bad. However, my heart is still a bit beautiful, Xiao Beiwa loves him so much. On the way to the restaurant, he asked her tentatively, "I made so bad, why do you smile and praise me for doing well? I think I'm a cooking genius if I hurt myself." Yanj typing on mobile phone, "Is it not delicious? I eat pretty well, it's just that the meat is harder to bite and everything else is fine." "Is that hard to bite?" "That won't bite at all." At first, Li Che thought that the song really loved him, so Love House and Wu didn't want to embarrass him. But now, he looked at her seriously, without any fooling of him. "So I couldn't help but asked again, will you cook? I knew you would be in charge."